What's up, everybody? Welcome to Cinema Trip Reviews. I am Wyatt, and today on the show, I'm going to be doing something a little different this week. I'm not going to be reviewing a specific movie or anything like that. I'm, of course, going to be talking about David Lynch, who unfortunately passed away last week at the age of 78. For those who don't know or haven't followed the channel or anything like that, I am a huge David Lynch fan, and I really wasn't going to do a video like this at first until I really saw the kind of outpouring of support and love for David Lynch across pretty much every social media platform out there. And to be honest, it's I've never seen anything really quite like this as far as going on Twitter or going on Instagram, and literally every single post I'm seeing is something about David Lynch and how it affected somebody else's life, or just like an actor, it affected his life, or whether they worked with him or didn't, or just watched their movies. Just all that love and support that he's been getting on like social media and everywhere. And just even like people go showing up to Bob's Big Boy, where he would frequent on a daily basis for quite a long period of time, and just like dropping gifts off and everything, just in honor of David Lynch. Just everybody's support and, just love for David Lynch, and just seeing that pretty much anywhere that I hop onto as far as social media, it really inspired me to kind of come on here and kind of talk about David Lynch and how important he was to me as like a person that not only loves cinema and movies, but loves music and the arts, as a whole, because David Lynch was much more than an actual, like, just a director. He was an artist first over everything, whether it was painting pictures, making sculptures, tinkering away at making little like gadgets and whatever, what have you, and then also making music and stuff on the side, and then of course directing and making short movies and everything. David Lynch was an artist first and foremost, and just to know that so many people, around the whole world has been impacted in one way or another by David Lynch, it's amazing, and it definitely inspired me to do this just because I'm not very good with words, especially with, like, going on social media and, writing a post just talking about how important someone is to me. I'm just not good with putting words together as far as writing. Some that watch my videos may say I'm not good with words just in general, which is a valid point. But I really just wanted to come on here and talk about the importance of David Lynch to me, because there's really hasn't been too many deaths as far as like celebrities or anything like that that have really affected me, just because we're not in contact with them. I don't know David Lynch on a personal level or anything like that, but just following him for all these years, and my love for his movies and everything, it definitely hit me a little harder than I expected it to. And then that hasn't really happened to me before, other than like the death of Chester Bennington years ago, because I'm a huge Linkin Park fan. But yeah, it definitely kind of hit me a little harder than I expected. So like ever since hearing the news, I've been going back. Me and my fiance have been rewatching Twin Peaks now. I actually rewatched Eraserhead the other night, and I'm actually planning to go through and rewatch most of his other movies. I actually have them all right here with the box of from the Red Room and everything. I'm a huge David Lynch fan. I have like all of his movies. I have like the Twin Peaks collection, everything. I've watched a lot of his shorts. A lot of them, the shorts are part of like the Criterion editions of some of his movies. Even watched like his documentary that he's had, and I even have like a couple of his books and everything like that. Because it's not just the filmography and the movies that I'm interested as far as David Lynch. It's the person of who David Lynch is, and pretty much just the artist himself and what he represents. And just kind of like my brief history with David Lynch. I started with Twin Peaks like a lot of people. Now I am 31. I was born in 93. So obviously I didn't get to see Twin Peaks as it was airing and everything. My mom actually watched it as it was airing back in the day. But I didn't really get into David Lynch until much later in life. I believe, I was already out of high school. I had like my first or second job at that point. And one day I was very sick, and I just stayed home on the couch, and I ended up, scrolling through Netflix and seeing Twin Peaks. And that was when, Twin Peaks was on Netflix at the time. And I remember reading a lot of different things about Twin Peaks, and that it was always ranked up there as one of the top TV shows of all time. Every time I would look up something like that. So I was like, you know what, I'll give it a try. And I remember being so sick on that couch and just watching the whole first season of Twin Peaks, and that whole day. And then I couldn't get enough at that point. And believe it or not, even though how much I really enjoyed Twin Peaks, that wasn't when I really dove in and started, seeing what David Lynch was all about. That wasn't until years afterwards, whenever I ended up rewatching Twin Peaks again. And then I ended up diving into the catalog a little bit more. I ended up watching Fire Walk with Me. And even though the movie is, about Twin Peaks and some of these characters that we've grown to know from that show, it's so much darker and it hits so much harder on, a personal level, I feel like, for a lot of people. And it really shows you the dark side of not only David Lynch, but Twin Peaks, because even though the show itself has some dark moments, there's a lot more kind of lighthearted, some comedic moments that are sprinkled throughout where there really wasn't any of that within Fire Walk with Me. Yeah, there was a couple little things here and there you can kind of smirk or chuckle at, but it's a very serious movie overall. And it could have been a very different movie had they included the missing pieces that came along with it, as all the deleted scenes and everything that kind of have that original Twin Peaks show feel to it. But I really ended up enjoying Fire Walk with Me, just because of how bizarre that movie is at certain points. Way more bizarre than I was used to for the original series and everything, especially with, the David Bowie scene and everything. Like, we don't have to talk about Judy, which, all that ends up coming up within the Twin Peaks, like the return, the season 3 and everything. And just because of how much I really enjoyed Fire Walk with Me and how absurd it gets at certain points and surreal or abstract, that's really what made me kind of dive down the David Lynch rabbit hole at that point. Just watching like Mulholland Drive, which is one of my favorite Lynch movies. I love Mulholland Drive. I ended up watching like Lost Highway, The Elephant Man. I ended up diving into his whole catalog at that point. And then the last one I ended up watching was Inland Empire, which I actually did as a review on the channel. I've only seen it the one time because it is 3 hours long. I've actually been meaning to watch it again since I've got the Criterion Blu-ray, which I actually haven't actually put in and actually watched as of yet. I just haven't had the time, which now is the perfect time to go back and really kind of try to break it down and see what it's all about, or just try to see if I can dissect it and kind of form a new hypothesis about it, because that's really the best thing about David Lynch to me, how surreal and abstract things are. And it's not just, absurdity for absurdity's sake. I saw an interview with him where he was talking about, like, he's not purposely going out here to try to fool anybody. He's not out here trying to throw people off his tracks or anything. These movies are just the best way for him to, you know, put out what he's feeling or what he feels is best for that story. And to me, his movies don't come off as pretentious or anything like that in any way to me. And they never feel like they are just weird for the sake of being weird. And the reason I really love David Lynch's movies and his work is because they make me feel like the Martin Scorsese like meme and everything, just like, this is cinema. That's how I feel when I'm watching a David Lynch movie. It's like, this is cinema. I feel like I am watching a film, a motion picture when I'm watching a David Lynch movie. I just get a feeling that it's something I'm witnessing something special every time I watch a David Lynch movie, because I feel like I get something new out of each movie anytime I watch it. I feel like I'm coming away with something different. I'm coming away with a new theory or a new meaning behind a certain thing in these movies, or I'm catching something I didn't before. And I very rarely come out of his movies where I'm just like, yeah, I don't know what the fuck that was all about at all. I normally have a general feeling like, okay, well, I think this happened because of this. And I think this is what this means. And that's the most important aspect of it. He's not creating these movies to tell you exactly what it is. He wants you to form your own hypothesis. He wants you to come up with your own meanings for these things. Not everybody's going to come out of these movies feeling the same way, just general feeling wise about the movie, or just what the movie means to them, or as far as what happened in the movie. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about it, is everybody has their own interpretation of what these movies are, as far as a whole, or what they mean, what some of the more abstract, weird stuff means within the movie, because I do feel like they have deeper meanings. And I love the genius of Lynch where he doesn't want to elaborate on anything.
Eraserhead is my most spiritual film.
We'll elaborate on that.
No, I won't.
He doesn't want to give you the answers. Everything you need are in the movies themselves. It's just up to you to figure it out. And there's really no wrong answer. And whenever it comes to that, and that's the most special part about it. And just the feeling and the look of the movies themselves, just the different dissolves that he uses, and the weird close-ups and the weird ticks and things that he has certain characters do with zero explanation whatsoever. And yeah, it's weird, but that's what makes it special. And that's what really drew me to his movies and everything. And like, yeah, there's some that I like more than others, but I think as a whole, I like all of his movies. And I mean, and there's some that are more straightforward than others, like The Straight Story and even The Elephant Man. They definitely have some like little weird moments or abstract, surreal type parts to them, but they're very more straightforward. You know really what you're getting by the end of it. There's not a lot to guess whenever you're coming out of them. And those movies are just as good as his other ones where they go absolutely bonkers insane, like in Inland Empire, which is 3 hours of what the fuck is happening. But even during that 3 hours of what the fuck is happening, I'm genuinely trying to figure it out, and I'm genuinely intrigued from a filmmaking perspective. And the style of Lynch is something that I don't think will ever be replicated or will ever be seen again. I mean, of course, there's going to be like different, homages and different, tributes to Lynch in certain ways in different media. I mean, there's always has been, people, referencing Lynch or, just going weird for weird's sake. And that's where the term Lynchian comes from, and everything is just like, it feels like a very David Lynch move. And I mean, I knew the term Lynchian before I even started getting into David Lynch or anything like that. But just the way that, his movies feel, they just have like a grittiness to them, and like a certain feel and look. I mean, his movies a lot involve a lot of like rough textures and solid colors or matte colors and stuff, and a lot of shadow work and light work and stuff like that. Then that's also what makes his movies so unique, as well as everything else, is just the look of them. I don't think it's compared to anything else really. And especially as far as the stories, a lot of people that have watched his filmography knows that David Lynch, he loves the concept of like dreams and nightmares, and yeah, most of his movies do involve dreams in certain aspects, and he finds a way to kind of twist them and utilize them in different ways. And one of the best thing about his like kind of storytelling through every medium is his ability to kind of show you the real world. The best way to describe it is like the beginning of Blue Velvet in a way. It shows you the real world as far as like, bright blue skies and golden sunshine all along the way, and the white picket fence and the red roses, and like the perfect life. And then of course and then he takes you beneath the surface. He takes you under the ground. You get to see all the bugs and the dirt and the worms and the grotesque sort of things lying beneath the surface of this perfect life that we all think that we're living in. He finds an amazing way to kind of show you the bright side of things, of normal life, but also he finds a way to really, put a magnifying glass and magnify the dark side of life, the underbelly of life that not a lot of people see or are aware of or don't want to recognize. And you get to see that a lot through most of his works. You get to see that darker side. And I think that's a lot of the point of some of his things as well. I mean, look at Twin Peaks, like all three seasons, and Mulholland Drive and Blue Velvet. All of those have like characters that you like, and kind of the bright and sunny aspect on the surface level, and then you dive in for the rest of the movie, and it just takes you deeper and deeper and deeper, down a rabbit hole of just weirdness and dark characters and bad things happening to good characters. And I mean, there's certainly some things in throughout his movies that are hard to watch as far as subject matter. There's a lot of heavy shit that is throughout his movies and his filmography, but he does it in such a way and with such care that it makes you feel that much more stronger for the main characters that you're following throughout these journeys that you're going, these cinematic journeys that you're going on and everything. By the end of these movies, he wants you to feel a certain way. It's just a matter of how you process this information and how you kind of decipher the movie by the end of it. And one way or another, you're probably going to feel the way he wants you to feel. It's just a matter of how you kind of interpret it at that point. Because I mean, I love Twin Peaks and I love Fire Walk with Me, but it's so hard for me to watch some of those scenes because you know what's coming with Laura Palmer. You know what's gonna happen to her, and it's so traumatic and it's so depressing and hard to see her go down this route and what happens to her, especially, with you know, with Bob and I'm not going to go into spoilers for anybody that actually hasn't seen Twin Peaks, which I don't know how you haven't seen Twin Peaks as of yet. But with her killer and everything, and how heartbreaking that movie is, and then even by the end of it, where she's in the red room and there's the angel there and everything, and she's smiling, you kind of makes you feel like she's in a better place, like she's away from being, unhappy, and she's away from Bob, and she's away from all this bad shit that was happening to her. She's kind of finally free in a way. I mean, by the way, I do have a Fire Walk with Me review. Definitely go check that out if you haven't. I'll eventually try to review that with a guest on at some point that we can really break it down. But I'm not going to try to go into all his movies or anything, but that's just one of the examples. And also, I'm not going to pretend to know everything about David Lynch and his movies. I'm not going to sit here and dissect to be like, this is exactly what these movies mean, because, like I mentioned, everybody has their own interpretations or anything. I'm not like the guy that knows everything about David Lynch by any means. This is just how I feel about his movies and about the artist as well, because like I mentioned, that is what he is. He's an artist. And I mean, yeah, I gravitate towards his movies more, because I'm more of a movie guy. But I mean, I do like his music. I enjoy the music that he has made, and I actually really enjoy some of his artwork that he's made as well. I mean, I haven't seen any of it in person or seen any of the galleries in person, but I've seen a lot of his artwork online and everything like that, and I would love to actually get something of his up on my wall at some point, whether it's an official Lynch print. I know those cost a couple $1,000s, or just a recreation or something. I would like to have like a David Lynch piece somewhere in the house. I don't know. There's just something about just the way that he creates art and the way that he sees the world. It's just so interesting to me. And I mean, he's into the whole transcendental meditation and stuff. And I mean, I'm not into meditation and stuff like that, but I like the philosophy behind it and the way that he describes it and everything. I mean, I've watched videos on it, and everything. It's just, I don't know. It's just the person of David Lynch is so fascinating to me. And that's what draws me to him and his artwork and his music and his movies, because he just seems so genuine in a way. He doesn't seem like anybody else, like in the industry, like that may come off fake at certain times. Like Lynch, really, he does it on his own terms. And I mean, he only really had one big budget movie in his career, and that was Dune, and he didn't have final cut on that movie, and he said he was never going to do that again. So before that, up until that point, and then after, Lynch did everything on his own terms. Like if he was going to make something, he was going to make it exactly how he wanted to make it. He didn't want any interference, and that's something I respect the hell out of. Was he did everything on his own terms, and it seemed like he was one of the nicest guys around. I mean, just watching interviews with actors or actresses that he's worked with, and just seeing posts from these actors and actresses that he's worked with after his passing, and just them talking about him. It genuinely seems that everybody he's worked with has had a great experience with him, and that he's treated them so well as far as working for him as an actor and actress, but being friends. Like he really felt like he befriended everybody that he worked with and got to really know them kind of on a personal level. And that's not to say that David Lynch couldn't be an asshole at times. I'm sure he could have. There's a couple videos out there. It seems like, yeah, he loses his cool at certain points, but overall, it seems like David Lynch was beloved by damn near everybody that he worked with. And I really think that says a lot about his character and the person himself. Because I mean, look at how many regulars he's had across his whole career that have been in his movies or TV or in Twin Peaks and the TV show and everything. He's worked with a lot of the same actors and actresses here and there at certain points, and I think that's really a sign of being a good director and being a good filmmaker. So I mean, I thought it was important to sit down and really kind of talk about my experience with David Lynch and his work, just because it seems like he really left a big hole in the universe as of right now, and in people's hearts, because he's inspired thousands, if not millions, of people to go out there and just create whatever you want to create, whether it's art, music, movies, videos, whatever, whatever you create. I think David Lynch is a person that easily and inspires people. And I mean, just another note, I mean, he was also there during the pandemic when everybody was, locked, stayed at home and everything. He was doing his weather reports on a daily basis. I don't live anywhere near California. I live in Pennsylvania, but I was watching his weather reports on a daily basis to see what David Lynch was up to, and just to hear him every Friday say,
And if you can believe it, it's a Friday once again.
I would just tune in to see his thoughts on the weather that day and whatever he was listening to or was thinking about at that point in time. And then just to say it's Friday once again and, wish to have blue skies and golden sunshine along the way. I kind of miss those days. And just to know that, he tried to get more projects underway. He had multiple ones he was trying to work with at Netflix. He had like Unrecorded Night that was supposed to be filming before, everything, the pandemic happened in 2020. Rumors that it was a possible Twin Peaks spinoff in a way. And who knows if that's true or not, but he also had another couple projects that were in the works with Netflix, and he was trying to pitch them to other studios as well. And of course, unfortunately, they didn't get picked up. For what reason, I don't know, because some of these Netflix, especially, and some of these other streaming services are just throwing money away to people that are just making absolute trash that are just getting pushed aside in a week or two. And you don't want to give David Lynch a modest budget to make whatever the fuck he wants to make that is sure to garner attention because his name is David Lynch. He's one of the legendary filmmakers of an era. It just doesn't make much sense to me. And then, one of the execs of Netflix comes out and talks about how loved David Lynch was and how they were working with him on projects and shit. Like, fuck you. You shut him down. You turned him away multiple times, and then you want to act like you were there and you're like helping him out and you were going to be putting these projects through. Like, no, that's a lie. Like, don't sit here and try to save face now because the man has passed away. Like, we knew what you did, and you're sitting here trying to use his name to suck up the people and everything. Like, fuck you, Netflix. But it's crazy to me that David Lynch, like artists like David Lynch and John Waters, some legendary, cult filmmakers are trying to go out here and push, movies and trying to get funding for movies or projects, and they can't for some reason. And it's like, I don't understand that by any means. And you're just throwing money to like these nobodies that are just making trash to put out here, just quick content. And that's all it is to some of these streamers. And I mean, this is a whole conversation for another place, but if some of these places would have said yes, we may have had another, David Lynch project or two to see exactly what he was up to and what his thoughts were at any given time. And, it's kind of sad to see an artist of his caliber not being able to get the funding to do what he wants to do. And now, possibly never see anything from him again. It's like, I don't know how many things he has in the vault or his film that hasn't been released or anything like that. I don't know if we'll see anything like unseen from David Lynch ever. So who knows? I'm hoping that maybe eventually something gets released, or short movies that never were released gets put out there to the masses. I'm not sure. Maybe there's a small glimmer of hope. There's some other things that he may have filmed and never released that eventually get put out. Maybe some music or something. I don't know. It's kind of hold out. It's hard to hold out hope for that right now, but I mean, we got so many years of great things from him, like from art to music, and of course all of his movies. And all of his movies, at least to me, are timeless. They're from easy for me to go back and rewatch and try to interpret differently or find something differently, like I mentioned. But to sum it up, out of everything that I've talked about so far, I mean, there's a reason why I named the video the way that it is because that's one of the things I love about David Lynch, is because he was able to find the beauty in the surreal. And that's really what attracted me to all of his movies, is just kind of that surrealness, the abstractness of it. And not just to be weird for weird's sake, but because there's an actual reason for doing this, and there's a reason, and there's certain meanings behind these things, and you're supposed to figure them out. And I just love those type of movies, whether it's David Lynch or not. I just love those type of movies, and David Lynch is one of those filmmakers that really introduced me to that type of film, and really kind of broadened my horizons. And of course, David Lynch movies and David Lynch art isn't for everybody. I understand that. Some people it's just too weird for. But I mean, it's certainly for me, and I'm hoping for anybody that's watching this movie that hasn't seen a ton of his stuff. I highly recommend going to check it out. At least check out certain things. Check out Twin Peaks if you're not huge on like the absurdity and stuff. Maybe give Twin Peaks a try. Watch A Straight Story. Maybe Wild at Heart, if you want a fun little Nick Cage movie with Willem Dafoe and Laura Dern. Mulholland Drive it definitely has some weirdness to it, but it's a nice little like thriller mystery movie and everything. But I think David Lynch has one of the best things is his seeing the beauty and the surrealness, and I think he had a way of bringing out the best of every actor or actress that's worked with him across his filmography and everything. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely heartbreaking that we've lost one of the true filmmaking legends. And like I mentioned, it's amazing to see so much love and support for this man, across social media and across everywhere that I see. It's really kind of heartwarming to see how much this dude meant to so many other fans and, other filmmakers like Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese said some words about him and everything. And just actors and actresses, like it was heartbreaking to see like Kyle MacLachlan talking about him and Laura Dern and some of the other Twin Peaks cast and everything, or just actors and actresses that he's worked with. David Lynch was certainly one of one. He was one of a kind, and in which the likes will never be seen again. I don't think we'll ever see a filmmaker or an artist quite like David Lynch ever again. So I mean, we gotta be happy for the time that we had with him while he was here, and yeah, be thankful for the stuff that he was able to provide to us as fans. While he was still around, and how much he cared for fans and the people that he worked with and everything. And I think that's what I respect about him a lot. At the end of the day is how much he meant to the people that worked with him and everything. And it really shows you how decent of a person that he was in real life, even though there was definitely some troubling things lying beneath the surface, whether it was in his past, and he just is able to put them out on film in certain ways. So I mean, David Lynch he will always be one of my favorite filmmakers. Such a sad day that he's gone here now, but we're at this point where we just got to kind of celebrate his life, now. And I think this is the perfect time to release this video and also go back and rewatch all of this stuff, as of right now. So that's what I'm going to be doing here. I'm looking to do maybe a review or two of one of his movies here this year at some point. I was already planning on doing one at some point, so I mean, maybe I'll do more now that he's gone and we can kind of do like a celebration sort of thing. I don't know. I'll try to plan something out and see what we can get. Maybe get a couple guests on that like David Lynch or something and do something special for it. But what about all of you? If you're a David Lynch fan, let me know what movies are your favorites in the comments. Maybe let me know what movies you didn't like in the comments. Or if you're not a David Lynch fan, let me know why. Or at least give him a chance. If you're not a fan, maybe go give him a second chance and see what you think. Maybe check out some of his other work that maybe not be as abstract or too crazy, and maybe see that's kind of a good introductory point for you to kind of go into him a little bit more. But yeah, let me know what you think about David Lynch and his work in the comments below. Love to hear people's thoughts on him and everything. R.I.P. David Lynch. We lost a real one. As always, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Cinema Trip Reviews. Also, make sure to drop in and give us a good review wherever you get your podcast. Really appreciate it. Helps us get the show out there to a lot more people. And I'll see everybody next week.
There's the donut and there's the hole. And you should keep your eye on the donut. And all the other things that go on, they don't matter.